This Soonerscoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. There can be only one LASIK center for Sooner Scoop, and that's Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIKs.
Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoia here from the Soonerscoop.com studios. Thursday, April 24th, and another portal report. Oklahoma hosting, visiting, or they're having people coming in to visit. Hosting guys here over the last couple days. You had the story about the kicker this morning on Soonerscoop.com. Good time to be joining Soonerscoop.com. All you got to do is go to the website and join for $1. A lot going on right now with the Diamond Sports OU Texas coming up. Me and Bob Persbillo had the stickball report. You can see here on the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel, as well as a hoops report as well with Porter Moser and company. Really strong portal happenings for them with the announcement of the signings, and then obviously everything else that's building on a little bit of momentum. But since we last talked in the portal edition of the program, Oklahoma did pick up its third commitment out of the portal. Ricky Lolohea, I believe is how I'm going to say it.
Lolohea.
All right.
Lolohea.
Well, we tried the first time. Lolohea from Utah State, 6'3", 330 pounds. And we talked about him a little bit on Monday when he was on the visit, George, but certainly somebody that you're talking about that is going to add depth to the interior for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, look, Oklahoma defensive tackle wasn't a priority. Maybe it was there for about 48 hours when David Stone was in the portal.
Sure.
But with him being back in the fold, they just wanted to add somebody with some eligibility left. You know, you only add one guy in Trent Wilson in your freshman class. They wanted to add a younger guy with the right size, the right measurables. You know, I don't expect Ricky Lolohea to be a big-time contributor for Oklahoma next year. Maybe that changes. Maybe he develops into somebody that can be that fifth or sixth man in the defensive line rotation. But they like his size. You know, I think he's somebody they feel like can clog up the middle and maybe play for them in some goal line situations, something like that. But I think this is somebody that is more of a long-term type of project than, hey, he's going to play a ton next year. Because I think we kind of know who their four are next year. We've talked a lot about them: Jaden Jackson, Grayson Halton, Dominic Williams, David Stone. Those are going to be your core four. Then it's a matter of, can a Marcus Strong, can a Nigel Smith when he gets healthy, can Lolohea, Trent Wilson, the true freshman, can one of them get into the rotation as well?
No doubt. Good news for Todd Bates. Even better news coming out of the weekend with the David Stone drama, but he is coming back. Oklahoma, you reported on it on, I guess this would be Thursday. I completely forgot what day it is. You reported on Thursday. Oklahoma, yesterday, Tate Sandell, a kicker from UTSA, Texas San Antonio. He entered the transfer portal. Yep. He's on campus today for Oklahoma. He goes 19 of 23 a year ago, 17 of 18 inside 49 yards, which is obviously very strong. But as we continue looking at the portal and the kicking options, you miss out on Mason Shipley. He ends up at Texas. Tate Sandell, that's the new name to know at kicker.
Yeah, and, you know, they've talked to a bunch of different guys. I know we talked about Cade Hensley from Coastal Carolina on here. I'm not sure where he's going to end up. I haven't heard much about him in recent days. Isaiah Hankins, the kicker from Baylor, who was a 3-year starter there, thought he was going to end up at South Carolina. It sounds like that fell through. I wouldn't be shocked if OU circled back to him if they weren't able to close the deal on Tate Sandell today. And there's a couple other guys. Brandon Perez from East Central. He ended up actually signing, I think, with someone today, a G5 school. And then I think it was Abilene Christian. And then Noah Rules, he is he ended up at Central Florida. So this is the guy they really like.
Sure.
That's all to say. Tate Sandell. And when you look at his numbers and what you write off, I mean, he's as impressive as anybody that's entered the portal at kicker. I think he has a career long of 54. And like you said, 17 of 18 inside of 49 yards. I think he also was really good on kickoffs last year for them. So he's certainly somebody OU has targeted very quickly. Like you said, entered the portal yesterday. It's my understanding he got on a flight late last night, to fly to Oklahoma City from San Antonio and arrived in Norman early this morning for his visit. We'll see. I haven't heard of anybody else even being involved with him. I think Colorado State offered him maybe early this morning, but I would like to say I like OU's chances. We just don't know. You know, you never know. In the portal, things change quickly, but this is certainly their top guy at kicker right now, and I think they're trying to close the deal probably as we're recording this.
Very interesting. We'll be keeping an eye on that. George, you'll be posting on the board or writing the story if Oklahoma were to get him. Wide receiver. Let's go wide receiver because that's a position that I think that at the beginning of all of this, when the portal opened, everybody said they probably need to go out and get a portal wide receiver in wake of the Giovanni Gibson injury. Jermichael Carter, the new name to know, McNeese State, 6'4", 192. He has a pretty solid offer list from the portal, obviously. Tennessee, Vatech, West Virginia, Baylor, Colorado State, Vanderbilt, Utah all have offered since he entered. 37 receptions, 537 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 6'4", 192, that certainly fits the part.
Look, almost every guy they've gone after in the portal fits that like 6'2" or taller type of range. They're clearly looking for a bigger bodied wide receiver, and Jermichael Carter really fits what they're looking for. He was productive last year, has some really good size. I think he has some pretty good speed as well. I'm interested to see what he ends up getting offered, money-wise, because when you mention some of those schools, Tennessee is certainly in the market. Not only are they hosting Carter, but apparently they're going to be hosting Ted Hurst, the Georgia State wide receiver who just entered yesterday. He has over 900 yards receiving a year ago. I think they're also in on the Incarnate Word kid that just entered. So maybe that takes Tennessee out of the Carter sweepstakes if they're going after different guys. He's at Baylor today. I believe he gets to Oklahoma tomorrow on Friday and will be here Friday and Saturday. I would assume Oklahoma's trying to close that deal this weekend, right? Like they don't want him going on any more visits after that visit. But a lot of these kids, they end up going on several visits, and it was interesting. I think Pete Nakos put out the story on On3. The wide receiver market's insane right now. I think he said somewhere between $600,000 and $1.2 million is what a lot of the top guys are going for in the wide receiver portal right now. So I don't know what money Oklahoma has to spend here. We're going to talk about a few other guys, obviously kicker, tight end, corner. Like they still have some positions they'd like to maybe add. So how much are they willing to spend at wide receiver? I don't know. But Carter's the first one that they're actually getting on a visit. I know they've been interested in a couple other guys. This is the first one they're actually getting on campus. So we'll have to see what happens.
Roy Alexander, the name of the Incarnate Word wide receiver that is out there currently. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Jermichael Carter, when you look at the numbers and, coming up from McNeese State, maybe you're going to have to dip back into the Giovanni Gibson. You're taking a little bit of a chance, but measurably wise, you like what you see.
Yeah, and they like their wide receiver room. Like they think that they have a good group. Deion Burks, Isaiah Satania, Elijah Thomas, Giovanni Gibson, when he gets back from his injury, Jaden Gibson, if he gets back from his injury, like they feel good about that group. But I think they just, after what happened last year with all the injuries, they'd like some insurance.
Sure.
And if you can go out and get a guy like Carter, who was productive at McNeese, you put him in this offensive system. And I think that's the biggest thing too at wide receiver, Eddie, is they feel like whoever they go get or whoever's on the roster now, they're going to be productive because of the offense that they're running and the quarterback that they have in John Mateer and obviously Ben Arbuckle as the OC. It's just more about, hey, let's make sure we have some actual capable bodies this year versus last year with all the injury stuff.
Certainly interesting, too, that as we get to Friday when the portal closes for the football side of things, basketball closed on Wednesday night, it seems like Jaden Gibson's going to stay around Norman.
Yeah, it does. It seems to be trending in that direction. You asked us that a week ago, we probably would have said differently.
Sure.
So, is that a good thing? The hard part, Eddie, is we don't know what the injury is right now. Like we don't know the timetable. We kind of have an idea for Giovanni, right? The hope is to be back by the beginning of the season. We'll see if that happens. But it feels like he's going to actually play next year. I have no idea on Jaden Gibson. I mean, he hasn't played since like the second day of fall camp last year. And then he got re-injured, obviously right before spring camp in a non-contact deal. So, is he even going to be available next season?
Right.
I have no idea. If he is, right, if you think he's going to be healthy, which I would assume from OU's case they think he's going to be if they're going to keep him on the roster, then he can be a really big help for you. If he can be what he was prior to his injury, he was a really good player. So I think it's kind of a wait and see, and one of those things that I wish we could ask Brent, hey, what's the situation here?
Well, we'll be down or you'll be down at the spring meetings
Yep.
down in Destin, Florida here coming up at the end of May. Maybe you'll get a chance to talk to Brent Venables about that. Lance Mason visited on Monday, the wide receiver the tight end out of Missouri State. 34 receptions, 537 yards, 3 touchdowns. We've talked about him a couple times now. He did make the visit. He had Wisconsin and Purdue as well as Cal interested in him. I believe he visited Berkeley before making it to Norman. But maybe, just maybe, we're getting to decision day for Lance Mason.
I think he will probably decide on Friday. If not Friday, sometime this weekend is my understanding. I think he's finished all his visits. I honestly don't know if he ever made it to Purdue. I know he went to Wisconsin on Tuesday and Wednesday. Today's Thursday, so I don't know if he actually made it to Purdue. But it's my understanding he's going to make a decision soon. I think it's an OU or Wisconsin thing. I haven't heard much about how the Wisconsin visit went. I know he really enjoyed the OU visit. I know OU was trying to put together a very attractive offer because this is their one guy at tight end that they really like right now. If they were to miss on Lance Mason, I got asked, where would they pivot? Where would they go next? I honestly have no idea. They haven't really shown interest in anybody else right now. I know the Iowa tight end they kind of liked, but he ended up signing with Missouri, I think, a week ago. So I think they would pivot somewhere else. Maybe there's a younger tight end somewhere. I have no clue, but this is certainly a guy that I'm sure there's going to be some negotiations going on over the next 24 hours. But just like Tate Sandell, as well as Jermichael Carter, there could be a lot of movement in the next, I would say, 24, 48, 72 hours for Oklahoma. Maybe they could get some commitments, some guys signed, and close these deals.
Cornerback continues to be a position that we will, monitor, I guess, at best here over the next 24 hours before the portal actually closes. A name that's been popular, maybe because he's just down the road down the I-35 down in Denton. Brian Nelson entered the portal on Wednesday afternoon. Any interest there from Oklahoma? He certainly seemed like a guy. We've talked so many times, George, about, if there's a guy in the portal, there's quarterbacks, but is it a situation that would be good for Oklahoma? Is Brian Nelson one of those guys?
So there's been some rumors, some speculation that OU is interested here. I talked to Brian Nelson's representation this morning. They have not heard from Oklahoma. Okay. So maybe Oklahoma gets involved, and I probably need to follow back up and see if they've reached out today because he just entered yesterday, so he's got some time. But Oklahoma hasn't reached out yet. It's my understanding, too, he is getting a lot of attention.
I can imagine.
I mean, he was first team all AAC this last year, super productive for North Texas from the Houston area. So what I understand, there's been a lot of SEC schools reach out to him, Big 12 schools as well. So I think he's going to have a lot of competition, and it's one of those situations where Oklahoma would like to add a corner, no doubt about it. There's other spots that they really would like to spend their money on, and that's kicker right now, tight end, and I would say wide receiver is third. I think cornerback's fourth, and that's largely because they really love the young guys they have in that room. I know they're unproven. They haven't played a ton of football yet for Oklahoma. Some of them have, right? And Eli Bowen, Jacoby Johnson. Obviously, Gentry Williams is the vet in that room. But they love Cortland Guillory. They love Malik Hawkins, Davon Jordan, who we don't talk enough about, Jeremiah Newcomb. They feel like one or two of those guys are eventually going to step up this next year and play a lot for them. So while they'd like to add a Brian Nelson, I also don't know if they have the money that they would like, or they don't want to spend the money that it would probably cost to get somebody like that.
So if we're on commitment watch, probably Tate Sandell and Lance Mason. Those could be number 4 for Oklahoma in the portal.
Yes, I think those are the two to really watch over the next 24 to 48 hours. I don't think Jermichael Carter is going to make a decision.
Sure.
Probably maybe he does. Visits. Yeah, and he'd be smart to take some visits from his perspective, especially when you talk about, I think Baylor's going to be really tough. I think that they are going to probably throw some money at him. Tennessee, I'm really interested because they're in on a couple different guys. Which direction do they take? Who do they prefer? Obviously they have a ton of money to spend as well. And Utah, Utah lost, I think, their leading wide receiver to the portal just a few days ago. So they're looking to spend at that position. So you've got some real competitors with Jermichael Carter, and I would assume he's going to drive that price up. So Oklahoma's sake, they hope that he leaves on Friday as a commitment and doesn't take any more visits. But I wouldn't be shocked if, this Carter situation maybe plays out over a week or so.
Josh Iasosa, the former Oklahoma center, committed to West Virginia on Thursday. It seems like for the most part, they've kind of come to the end of the exits for Oklahoma.
It feels that way. You never know until it's totally over. And even then, sometimes the paperwork doesn't get processed for a day or two. So don't be surprised if anybody else jumps in. I know there's been some rumors about, Taylor Tatum. What's he going to end up doing? I haven't heard any new information there. I don't know if he's made a decision and, maybe he decides he wants to do just baseball.
Yeah.
I don't know when the baseball portal opens. Maybe he would transfer in that cycle. I have no clue.
Sure.
Maybe he's putting it off till then. KJ Daniels is another one that's kind of been rumored out there. Would he jump in the next couple days? Jake Taylor, I think, was one that people. I don't want to say that we heard rumors about him, but was one that maybe would consider.
Well, you start going through like all the different positions and just like logically, okay, is he going to find a way to get on the field? Maybe not. Would he look to go to the portal?
That's
just
one of
those things.
So I don't know. Same with tight end, like Cade McIntyre. Like, where does he fit in? Caden Helms. I think that all of those positions are ones that have been ones to watch, but have ultimately not ended up jumping in. So we'll see.
No doubt about it. All right, we will get back with it, and George will definitely be following it here as we make our way
in the
into
portal
the
thread.
end of the portal.
Yeah.
What's it at now? A couple million?
It's a lot. I mean, we're almost to 1,000 pages, which is crazy, but that's the place to be. Subscribe for $1, get in there, and I'm constantly, obviously I'm writing stories, but constantly giving little updates in that thread about where things stand with all these guys.
One of the perks of being in the community that is the Crimson Quarter. For George Stoia, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We will see you next time here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.